and welcome to Pressed Into Purpose podcast. Well, hello and welcome to another episode of Pressed Into Purpose. I am so excited for you all to meet my guest on today. Listen, we have a power-packed panel on today. I did say panel. We have a power-packed panel on today, and we are sharing with some ladies that have experienced life in a way that is wonderful and unique and powerful. And so this season, we're talking about marriage. And today's panel, I am talking to a group of women that have been divorced, but that are far along in their healing journey. So I just want to introduce them to you today. We have Sister Marneshia Hiner. We have Sister Adrienne Crawford. And we have Sister Katina Griffith. And I just want to say welcome, ladies, to Pressed Into Purpose. I'm so glad to have y'all here.
Thank you for having us here.
So I want to start the conversation, and typically I introduce, all of my guests, and I've introduced you and shared your names, but I want you all to tell us a little bit about yourselves. So I'm going to ask that you would take a moment. And if somebody asked you to describe yourself, how would you describe yourself in 3 words? And anybody can start.
Well, I'm Marneshia. I would say that I am supportive. I'm a supportive friend. I'm nurturing, and I'm funny. Okay, I got a little laughs in me.
Okay, come on. Okay, all right. Well, since Marneshia started, Sister Adrienne.
Yeah. Okay, I'm Adrienne. I am a career paralegal professional. So I have a super serious side. I make sure that all the ducks are in a row. But I'm crazy too now. I'm your good girlfriend. I'm your auntie. I'm going to give you the truth.
Yes.
You might even get prayer.
Come on. Give it to the people. Okay. Now would you describe yourself, Katina?
Okay, I am Katina.
Okay.
How would I describe myself? Wow. I am driven.
Okay.
I would say that I'm very passionate about things that I love. I have 2 sides. I have a side that is quiet.
Okay.
Because I am a firm believer of letting God pour, right? And when you are a pourer, you have to take those moments to be refilled, right? So I have that quiet side where I'll steal away. But yeah, I got a crazy side like Adrienne. I have the humorous side too. But absolutely.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. So we got a good group of of serious, but also humorous and laid back, and just we had a good group of ladies today. And y'all know a little bit about me. You know what I'm saying? I'm gonna laugh. Okay. I'm gonna get my laugh on. You know that about me. But I can also get right to it. So let's get into the topic of the day. We are talking about divorce, and some people say it's a dirty word. I don't say it's a dirty word. I say that it is a place of learning if you choose for it to be that. So I'm going to ask each of you, how long were you married? And then how long have you been divorced? So let's start there with Katina.
Sure. So I was married almost 20 years.
Okay.
A little short of 20 years. I have been legally divorced. Well, we just almost 6 years now. So
Okay.
yeah, almost 6 years.
Okay. Adrienne?
Okay, I'm the Zsa Zsa Gabor of the group. I've been married to 2 separate gentlemen.
Okay.
Twice each.
Really?
A circle block on them.
Okay.
She spent
The first one, yeah.
Oh, they spent the block.
Yes. And so the first gentleman I was married to a grand total of 10 years.
Okay.
And the second gentleman, around that time, 8, 9, 10
Okay.
years.
Okay.
Once we wrapped that thing up.
And how long since the second divorce?
It's been about 6 years.
Okay. All right. And Marneshia?
So I got married in 2011. We got a divorce in 2017.
Okay.
But like Adrienne said, we kind of circled the block a couple of times.
Okay.
After the divorce. And so from 2017 to about 2021, we were going back and forth of whether we wanted to work it out and everything. And then so since 2021 is when we broke away. So it's been 4 years since, since we are not talking, haven't engaged with each other.
Gotcha. Okay. So then the question becomes, what did you learn about yourself in the marriage, and then what have you learned about yourself since being out of the marriage?
Ooh, that's a deep question. So we're gonna go that deep.
Yes, we done took off now. We took off.
All right.
Hey, take off.
No more the closed-ended questions, huh?
Yes.
So part one of that question was, what did I learn about myself in the marriage? Okay. That I would say that I have and always will honor the covenant of marriage. That is huge to me. And even with the transitions and that I went through, I didn't change my confession on that.
Okay.
To the end. So I learned that about myself, that I still have that, even though I'm progressive, I still have that traditional foundation.
Okay.
As far as how I see marriage. So that was one of the things I learned in there. Outside of that, I would say, my biggest lesson after that, once divorce, for me, my biggest lesson was, this might be a little lengthy. My biggest
we got time for that.
That's right.
I got a few. One was boundaries.
Okay.
I learned about boundaries. I think when we think about boundaries, we think in terms of your enemy. We don't think in terms of as people we love, family, spouses, and things like that. So I learned that even with those that you loved, you have to set boundaries.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Yes.
If you don't, they'll, it'll continue and it'll get worse as it goes along. It doesn't get better by you saying, oh, well, because I love them. And yes, we have grace and we give grace, but grace doesn't abound so that you can keep sinning in what you're doing.
Exactly.
Huh?
Come on, word.
Let's just say that with it. So the boundaries is really big. And I think that's an ongoing process for me too, because I think when we love people, we forget about those boundaries.
Yes.
They fall
Absolutely.
down. But those God even placed boundaries around us, right?
Absolutely.
So even with those that you love, you have to have boundaries. And they're not necessarily for the people on the outside. They're really for you.
Absolutely.
To protect you and to protect your heart and your peace and your joy. So they're really for you.
Yes.
So that was one of the biggest things I think I learned. The other thing was in marriage, when I was coming up the traditional way, you find somebody, you get along, you're attracted to them, you love them, you fall in love. This is a good spouse. This is a good man. So that's the way that I came from. Well, fast forward. It takes more than love.
Yes.
Oh my goodness. Yes.
So that's a big thing.
What they do now?
Right. That's it.
Yes, ma'am.
It takes more than love. So my approach, and I learned some of this inside of marriage, right? Some of these lessons inside of marriage, and then some, Holy Spirit taught me as I was going through that divorce. But it takes more than love. It takes discipline. And, there's a whole slew and list of things.
Yes.
But looking for a mate now for me is a lot different than it was then. And the huge thing is purpose.
Yes.
Come on. Say it.
Purpose.
Say it on the Press at the Purpose podcast. Say that.
Yes.
It is about purpose and assignment.
Yeah.
My 20-year-old self didn't know that. And we have to make sure that we're teaching the younger group that now, right?
Absolutely.
It's more than love. It's more than an attraction. It's not a business for those that's out here thinking that too. No, it's purpose. It's assignment. So when you think about that, you should approach it that way as well as dating. So that was a huge lesson for me.
Yeah.
Huge lesson for me.
I want to talk about, and we gonna get to y'all. But I want to have some discourse around this. So you mentioned one of the things was boundaries. OMG, how many of us don't have boundaries? How many of us walk through life, not just in marriage, but we don't have work boundaries. We don't have family relationship boundaries.
Yes.
We don't have, partner marriage boundaries. We don't have friend boundaries. We just walk around and whatever is gonna happen is gonna happen. No, sometimes you have to, and really all the time you need guardrails.
Yes.
Sure. Because nobody is going to. If you don't treat yourself well, nobody else is going to treat you well. If you don't respect yourself, nobody else is going to respect you. You have to show people how to treat you by the way you show up.
That's right.
And showing up includes what are my boundaries? Yeah. What are the things that I'm just not going to tolerate?
What are my absolutes?
Exactly. We talk about that. Talk about
What
that.
are my absolutes? It's just so funny that I was listening to Katina talk about what we are preconditioned to do. And with my first marriage, I met somebody, I liked him, he liked me, and I thought that little sanctified girls got together with little sanctified boys, and God was going to bless it, and everything was going to be fine.
Yeah.
And that is so not all of it.
Yes.
As our pastor says so eloquently, two things can be true at the same time. It is accurate, but it's incomplete. Yes,
come on.
God will bless it, but you got to know some things about the person and recognize things about an individual and compatibility and alignment with purpose and all of the things.
Yeah.
And so it's funny. It's strange. I'm going to back out of that one. I'm going to back right out.
Tough lessons
For our runner.
They are tough. But so I also want to talk about another thing you mentioned. You said love is not enough. So I didn't always believe that to be true. I didn't always believe that. I was like, love is all you need.
Absolutely.
You hear what I'm saying?
We all women.
Love is all you need. As long as you got love conquers all. Hallelujah.
Yes,
you know what I'm
that's
saying?
perfect
As
love.
long as we love each other, it's going to be all right. And then you get in that thing. And you like, what in the what is happening in here?
Yeah.
What is going on?
What's happening?
And wait, we might need a little respect.
Absolutely.
We might
First off.
we might need some finances.
Absolutely.
We might need to be on the same page about more than we just love Jesus.
Evenly yoked.
You see what I'm saying?
You have to like them. Oh, you have to like them.
For real.
Wow.
And that was one of the things that I hung my hat on with number 3 and 4. It was the same person. If I can laugh about this, anybody can laugh about it. But that was my friend. And so I went into it not under the, oh, that's my boo, he's so fine, and he can really dress, and oh, he's anointed. That was my friend. That was my boy. And so I recognized shortcomings. I recognized when I liked him and then the personalities that I didn't necessarily gel with. And so you think that you have all of the information, but when you don't.
Yeah.
It's rough. It's rough, but you have to like them. You gotta like them.
Yes.
In all of the
Absolutely.
seasons.
In all of the
In
seasons.
poverty and riches. Sickness and health.
Sickness and health.
So what did you learn about yourself? Tell us.
I always like to tell people that I pride myself of being a woman of dimension. And so during my marriage, particularly the second the second gentleman.
Okay.
I realized I had this distinct personality in her name. I've named her. She's Shaquita Watkins.
Okay. All right.
I don't like her.
Oh.
I don't like her. She's mean and she's just a little, but that person drew that personality out of me after a lot of forbearance, a lot of love, a lot of grace, a lot of understanding, a lot of cash. And then you get Shaquita when none of the other things line up. So I learned that as a whole, I learned that little sanctified girls do get together with little sanctified boys, and we pray and ask the Lord to bless it. But there is more work to be done.
Absolutely.
I also learned, as with gentleman number 2, there were no less than 40 or 50 prophetic words over our lives. We would be in church services, we're a church culture, and prophets would come and we would be on opposite sides of the room serving, and they would connect us in the spirit and say, do you know this woman, or do you know this guy? And thus saith the Lord. And we began to believe what God had spoken, but there's got to be a condition to every prophetic word. We believed it and walked out on it. But as you walk out on it, you have some parts to play.
Absolutely.
Otherwise, you begin to treat it like a magic trick.
Absolutely.
Like, he that findeth a wife obtaineth favor from the Lord. And you want the favor, but you don't want to be the covering. All right, I'm done.
You gotta, this is work.
Yes, it is.
If I've
Yes,
learned
it
nothing
is.
else about marriage, I've learned that it is work.
It is work.
And so I knew it was work going in, y'all, but what I didn't know that I was going to have to keep working.
Yes.
That was the part that I felt like
No
after about
retirement package.
6 years, we was going to be able to coast. And when the coast never came, I was like, what is happening right now?
So you dig in.
It's continual.
Yes.
It is continual. And not just in marriage, but any relationship, right?
Yeah.
In order for you to grow, it is a continual process. And I am a firm believer that all the fruits of the spirits, all of that is practice in marriage.
Absolutely. You listen.
Every last.
How else are we going to obtain it? You obtain it in relationship,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
How do I know peace unless I have chaos? And and I learn how to respond to that. What does God say about that? How should I respond to my mate and how my partner unless I have it?
If we did more of that, God, how do I respond instead of just responding in our flesh?
Yes.
If we did so much more of that, oh my God, and it don't have to be a shanana, you know what I'm saying? But just a moment.
Yes.
Just pause for a moment.
But before I say something,
Yes.
Okay, I don't need to say that. Okay. Because a lot of times God be trying to stop us. Yeah.
He really does.
He does.
He like, don't, and we like, and let me tell you, you know what I'm saying? And God is like,
we look up and Shaquita's
I had it, but you just snatched it right on out my hand, and now we all on over here. You know what I'm saying? And then now we in territory we can't even come back from, because we didn't listen to that still small voice and said, don't say that.
And words do hurt.
And they really do.
They do.
They really
The biggest
do.
lie ever told is that they don't hurt. They do hurt, and some things
Absolutely do.
are hard to come back from.
Yes.
Absolutely.
There's life or death in the tongue.
Yes, yes.
We have to choose, how we're going to build with that brick that we're given. Are you going to help me build this house? Are you going to tear it down
Yes.
with that brick? Are you going to throw bricks at me and tear this house down?
Right.
Absolutely.
Yeah, we're all guilty of those moments.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Miss Marneshia, tell us.
Ooh, so I echo everything that Katina and Adrienne said, but one thing that I would say is, for me, what what I learned about myself within the marriage. I was a wife and I had the characteristics, but I didn't have the tools to be a wife.
Okay.
You
Unpack
know,
that for us.
Yes.
you know, I think that some of us are created to be wives. Like we're just have that innate ability to be one. And as you grow up in the Baptist church, you know, you see all these wonderful couples. You hear all the marriage talk. You hear that, you know, you're supposed to be married. You meet this sanctified boy and you this sanctified woman, and y'all come together and y'all just gonna get married.
Yeah.
And that was what I heard at the age of 30 when I got married. And so it was like, okay, this is what we doing. You know, he like me, I like him. But I ignored all of the red flags.
Talk about it.
I ignored all of the, you know, he had previous children before we got married, and I ignored the relationship he had with the mothers. I ignored different characteristics that he carried, and different little things that happened. I just was so smitten about being married that and wanting the fairy tale white picket fence, the house, the kids, all of the things.
Yeah.
And so when I say about wife things, that's wife things growing up.
Okay.
But I didn't have the tools and knowing how to keep marriage, how to, you know, come against the conflicts that were coming. I didn't have conflict resolution. I didn't have, you know, the ability to know that I had a voice in my marriage.
Come on.
And to know, to tell, to say, I need this. I want this.
Okay.
I thought everything was just supposed to be, we're riding in on this, you know, white horse, and we're going to get this house. We're going to have these kids. And that's the way
Life is going to be great.
Yes. That's the way the life is supposed to be.
Sold the dream.
Yeah. You know, the whole American dream.
A trick from the
But I didn't know nothing about having a conversation. I didn't know nothing about communicating and knowing what I needed in the marriage.
Yeah.
And so I lacked those abilities, and I didn't know how to have boundaries or to know to say that, no, I don't like that. No, and have a conversation about it.
Yeah.
And so, that's what I learned about myself inside the marriage.
You made me think about a question. So in each of your stories, did you all have premarital counseling in any of those, in any of your situations?
Yep. I think that's a really good question.
Yes, it is.
That I would love to share on, because I think we all kind of talked about, so we didn't choose people that weren't in Christ. Right? We actually chose people in the church. I was married to a minister. One of the biggest facades, I believe, that the enemy put on us was that you both saved, you know the word, you'll be okay. Right? From my end, I thought there was more. We needed to do counseling. From his end, he was like, we're straight. We're good. We both go to church. We're in Christ. And that gave the enemy a foothold, right? Because I was in there and I still did my work outside of him, which is, I think it's very strange. So I still did some marital counseling, which was outside of him, right?
Prior?
Before the marriage, prior to the marriage, you know, because he's just like, oh yeah, I can't make it, but we're good, you know. Even, you know, his mentor who was marrying us, he even said like, oh, you guys are good. And I think that was the biggest trick. Like I was doing my due diligence to equip myself, but my mate wasn't. And I think a lot of that was why we had a lot of strife, right? Because it was, you know, his concept may have been, I'm saved, so we good. I'm just gonna know what to do. But you haven't walked out those fruits of the spirit.
Yeah.
You know, that's a trick of the enemy. You know, you need more in common than, okay, we clap on the 2 and the 4 and the 3. And,
Right,
you know,
right,
3 and 4.
right,
We
yes.
both know who God is.
Yeah.
But have you sat with God? Are we living and becoming those teachings?
Yes.
I was about becoming
Yes.
those teachings.
Right.
You have to have someone who understands that you should always be growing.
Yes.
There's always work to do. You just can't be like, oh, I've arrived. I think that's the biggest
Because
trick.
we've never arrived. If you're still alive,
arrived.
you have not arrived.
Never.
Listen.
Never. And
You have not.
I think that is one of the biggest tricks and why a lot of people are getting divorced. You think you've arrived. You know,
Yeah.
we're speaking from a Christian perspective, and we know God. And,
Right.
and we know the word. But I think it's a trick. Oh, I know I'm not know the word. No, there's still work to do. To every promise, there's always a condition listed before every promise. There's still work to do. And when you get in a space, both spouses, whatever side is, where you think you don't have to work, that's when the enemy.
Yes,
is
that's
like,
dangerous.
Oh, it's my foot.
Yes.
Let me step on it.
Yes,
Let me
yes.
step on it.
All he needs is a little crack.
Yes.
And he will walk right on in and test some stuff to test stuff. And he don't come in all the time like with the sledgehammer. He just come in
Little thoughts.
little thoughts.
Yeah.
It's
a gradual
little,
process.
little things that'll happen. And then you like, wait a minute. No, that ain't that. That can't be that. And you brush it off. And then that same little thing come back up maybe a year later and you like, well, no, that ain't. We're not looking at the patterns.
No.
We're not, because we're thinking it's an isolated situation. Let me ask this question. We talked about this a little bit before we start recording, but in a lot of African American homes, we were told,
Sure.
what happened in this house, stay in this house. You don't go spreading your business. You don't go, talking about what happens here. Our parents' generation, that was what we were taught. Now we're coming to a different understanding that no, you don't have to tell every detail of your business, but you do need somebody to talk to.
Yeah.
Yes.
You do need and not just anybody to talk to.
Right.
You need somebody that has some wisdom.
Yeah.
You need somebody who has your best interest
Yes.
at heart. And so can we talk about a village? Like,
Yes.
do you have, or did you have a village at that time? Do you have a village now? And like, let's just in the marriage. Let's talk about in the marriage. Did you have a village, or at least somebody that you could reach out to and talk to that would give you sound advice that wasn't, and I gotta put this on there, that wasn't based solely on their experience? Because, sometimes people mean well and all they have is their experience, but wisdom goes past your experience.
Yeah. Yes.
And wisdom will say, even though this was my experience, this is what I need to share with you. So did you have a village that was able to share some wisdom with you during that time?
Okay, I'll go first. So the interesting thing is, a group of us all kind of got married around at the same time and had our children.
Okay.
So it's like 6, wives, and all their husbands are ministers. So we were all kind of doing this thing together.
Okay,
right?
okay.
So I would say to lean on them for wisdom, nah.
Yeah.
There were I had, people outside of, I would say, the church. I wouldn't lean on them.
Okay.
Just from seeing how they dealt with relationships, right? So like you said, we were taught, be quiet, you don't tell people your business. I did have one older couple once in the church who I admired, right?
Okay.
Just their interaction, and they had been married like 40-something years at that time.
Okay.
And I got some really bad advice from them. I would never forget that. So, you have to use discernment.
Yes.
Yes. Yes.
You have to use discernment. So I would say I didn't really have that village. I almost, and I don't say this to boast, I almost felt like what I knew and what God was teaching me was ahead of what they knew.
Oh my gosh, yes.
That was a tough place to be in. So what I did is I went internal and I just talked to God and I just covered his nakedness, So you didn't know. No one would have ever known. They were all shocked when I'm like, oh yeah, we're not together anymore because that's how well I covered his nakedness. And that's what we should do. Don't get me wrong. As a spouse,
Absolutely.
we should be covering each other's
Yes.
nakedness.
Yes.
But it would have been great to have a couple that had been in this thing some time. And I did meet a couple later on, in the thing, who kind of affirmed some things to me. But by that time,
It was too far gone.
it was too far gone. You know what I mean? It would have been great to have a mentor. And when I say mentor, somebody married 20 plus years.
Say that again for the
20 plus years,
people.
because you need to go through some things, some seasons first, right? And you need some biblical foundation. You shouldn't be listening to anybody about relationships that does not have a biblical foundation. They'll send you off every time. Don't do that. So I would just shut down because I was like, okay, well, I can't talk to you because, y'all cheating. One of y'all cheating. I see you. Like, I did not have that. I wish I would have, but I thank God for our help of the Holy Ghost because that's who I took it to.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I think for me, it was all couples within the church that I was going to. So we created a life group, and so we yeah, I thought it was nice. So we were amongst these couples that some had some tenure up on us, but some were fairly newly married as well too. But it also it kind of got murky because they started to feel some type of way about my husband or knew some things about him.
Okay.
And so it kind of got murky because it was almost like it was going against him, and it would put me in an awkward position because it
Was it too intimate too fast?
I think it was too intimate too fast, and it changed. It's an interesting dynamic because it was the church that I was going to, and so he was brought into the church. So some of those people were already my friends before, and so he just came into the fold.
Gotcha.
And so it was kind of,
Yeah. I mean, that's different. That's different.
Yeah, and so we tried to have these relationships with them, and it started off okay.
Yeah.
But it also wasn't good. We didn't have good information that was given to us to be able to sustain our marriage. And so we started to get outside counsel from, people that had been married longer than us. But then he got to a space that he didn't want to do that anymore. And I felt like, it was because he didn't want to uncover some of the things about himself to people because he was walking in a ministerial position. And so it was kind of like he didn't want to uncover himself as to make him look bad and look a certain way. And so it almost was like we would have one meeting and it would go good, and then he was like, no, I don't want to go back. And so
because when we go back, we're gonna have to get deeper.
It's going to expose some areas that I don't want to expose, and some of the areas that I haven't even told you that you're going to find out. I eventually found out later, but
listen, and this is really tickling me because it brought to a memory that what I forgot that happened. So we did counsel with one couple I remember, and I'll never forget that. He was the same way, right? Because he was in a ministerial position. And you have to cover them, right?
Yes.
You can't go to, you got to use discernment who you can talk to.
Absolutely.
You can't share with everybody.
Absolutely.
So, I get the secrecy and everything, but we should have been praying for the Lord to send us someone to do that. But we did have a couple, this one couple, and we did counseling with them. I would never forget this moment, right? Because I'm just like, yeah, finally, they're gonna hear. I can tell them,
Listen, come
about
on.
what he be doing behind these closed doors, Lord. Because we don't know if we want to talk about it, so we want to talk about that person, right? And Lord, we came up in this couple's house, and he was like, "Baby, let me pull out your seed. How you do? You want some water? You want
All
anything?"
the things.
And I'm looking
Keeping
at
up,
him like,
keeping up appearances.
I say, and I'm very transparent. I don't know how else to be. That's just how God made me. That's how He made me. I don't do phony. And so I was like, they was like, so we ready to begin? Katina, you want to start? I say, let's pause first. And they was like, what? I said, I don't know this man. I said, he does not treat me like this. This is not how he speaks to me in loving kindness. He don't pull out chairs
on the field.
I said,
You threw a flag on the play.
I said, if we gonna get some counseling,
Listen.
I need you to bring the real you to the table.
Right.
Because the real Katina is here.
Right.
Let's talk about it. I got issues, you got issues. Let's work this thing. And baby, that counseling session was short because he would not release anything out of his mouth. He didn't. We have to be, if we're going to grow and we want to heal, we have to be honest with ourselves. Let him examine himself.
Absolutely.
Examine himself
And
daily,
vulnerable,
right?
yes.
We have to be honest. Like, we all have flaws. None of
Absolutely.
us are perfect. We have to listen to one another. Okay, this is how you see me. This is how I see you. Let's meet in the middle.
Yeah.
How can we fix it for both of us?
Yeah.
But when you're in that thing and you're not going to be honest, and one person is just pointing at the next, you'll never move forward.
Never.
Because after you share that information, you have to hold yourself accountable to make sure you do the work to continue.
And that's what
so
it is.
that's what it was. You don't want to hold yourself accountable
That's
for the things
word.
that you've done.
That's
accountability.
Most people do not want to be held accountable.
Absolutely.
Not even to themselves. They don't want to be held accountable. So I want to. Okay, so listen. By the time this airs, and people will have heard me and my husband's story, and part of that story is we separated twice. Okay, and so what a lot of people don't know is that second time that we separated. So we separated twice, and it was about I guess an 8-year difference between the two separations. But I'm laughing because I'm saying to myself, I always said he had 80% of the problems and I had 20%, right? That's the way I felt. Okay. Whether it was true or not, that's how I felt. Right. It was true to me.
Your everybody's perspective.
That's right.
Guilty.
And so I was like, well, until he started working on his 80%, I'm not finna do no with my 20 because I'm good. I'm pretty good. You see what I'm saying? That was how I felt from my perspective. That second separation, I prayed and said, God, show me myself. Because, how do we get here again? I don't understand. This is trash. I don't understand.
Yeah.
And when God began to show me myself, and he began to show me my little 20%, it was nasty and it was ugly. And I was like, clutching my literal pearls. That's me, God.
Yeah.
That's how I've been showing up in the marriage. Oh. So when you talk about people have to be honest, we first have to be honest with ourselves.
Absolutely.
Yes.
And I feel like a lot of times we don't want to be honest with ourselves about where we truly are and what crap we are bringing into the situation.
Yes.
Because we all have some crap.
Absolutely.
We all have some
have baggage.
issues.
Absolutely.
We all have some baggage. We all have something that we've brought from our, from our, as our pastor talks about our historic makeup. We all have something that we brought with us into this situation, whether it's good, bad, indifferent, and we have to acknowledge it.
Yes.
And then once you acknowledge it, then you have to do something about it. The best analogy that I heard about marriage, early in our marriage, I want to say around year 7 or so, the church that we attended at the time, they had a marriage conference. And the speaker said, marriage is like sandpaper. You are rubbing the rough edges off of one another.
Wow.
So you live with that person all the time. They see the real you behind closed doors.
Yes.
And there is some stuff about you that is not nice.
Yes.
And because they're with you all the time, they're going to point out the things that the folks that don't live with you don't see.
That's right.
They don't see that part of you.
Yeah.
But your husband, your wife, your spouse, they see that stuff.
Yes.
And so they're like, that's you need to and it doesn't feel good.
No.
It doesn't feel good. It doesn't look good.
No.
But if we resist the sandpaper, if we resist it, we just gonna be out here rough forever.
But the biggest part of what you said is, and going back to your question of what I learned about myself in the marriage, I learned that I didn't know anything about myself. So that's hard to come to when you you say you gotta come knowing yourself. When you don't know yourself, then it's hard to even convey that to somebody else. And when they come to you and say, well, you got this issue, you got that issue. No, I don't.
I don't know what you got.
Like, that ain't never been a problem.
That's right.
No one's ever told me that.
Right. But coming to that question now, what I know now outside of the marriage is that I know that I did have those issues. But back then, all I knew was I wanted to get married. I didn't know I had to know anything about myself.
Right.
Okay, so tip for the people.
Right.
Know thyself.
Know thyself. Identity is very important before getting into a relationship.
Absolutely.
I ain't get to share nothing.
Because your self-esteem, you don't know what you're giving away. You don't know what you're sharing. You don't know what needs to be fine-tuned. You don't know what needs. And marriage is sandpaper, but it's also a mirror.
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
And so the thing that is
Listen.
ugliest and most insecure and most evil shows up in that mirror when you get married, and you got to look that booger in the face and deal with that thing because it shows up in your spouse,
Yes.
whether you
Absolutely.
receive it or not.
So dealing with it, what does that mean to deal with it? Like once you see something or recognize something about yourself, or once somebody has pointed something out, what does it mean to deal with it?
You have to sit with it. You have to acknowledge that there is a possibility that I am not perfect.
Absolutely.
Yes. Like, I am fabulous and I am all of the things. Right.
So I'm just
I am fine and sharp and anointed, but I am imperfect. Yes, that's right. Yes, I look great on your arms. That's it. That's right. I might cuss a little bit. Yes. With my anointed self. But you have to just acknowledge and be willing to dig that thing up.
Yeah.
Because it's going to show up. But when it shows up, you have to go down and find out, where did it come from?
Yes.
Where did it come from? Yes.
Because triggers will make it show up.
Absolutely.
But where did it come from? What's the genesis of that? What is it rooted in? Yeah. It's important. So that's what it looks like for me.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, one thing I noticed about flaws is that, and we all have them. Okay?
Yes, we do.
But if you don't deal with those things, some of those things, because we're not going to get them all worked out before marriage, those things are magnified in marriage.
Absolutely.
That's one thing I've seen. It may look like this on this level, but once I, cleave, to my spouse
200 times. Woo, right here.
now my spouse is seeing that thing 100 times a day.
Yes.
hard.
So it magnifies.
Yes, it is.
Magnifies.
It does.
That's why these premarital counseling and these conversations, we need to be strategic about these. What if this happened? Like, how would you respond? How do you feel about this? So that you can know how that person thinks, right?
Yes.
And like Adrienne said, first we have to admit that there's an issue, right? That's how we get to the root of it, right? And then take it to God. Lord, help fix me. Okay, because let's just be honest.
It's the real prayer.
Our prayers normally fix the other person.
Yes,
fix
it
this
is.
food. Let's just tell the truth. Lord,
Do you see him?
Lord, let's just see him. Like, do you see him? Do you see what he's doing? Get him.
I see him, but I see you too.
I see you too.
Right.
I remember praying. I say, Lord, this is your man. You better deal with him before I deal with him. Like, let's get him. Get him.
Right.
No. And the Lord is like, no.
Every time
Let me fix
every time.
you. Let me
Every
fix
time.
you. You done came out that closet. Now go back in.
Yes.
Go back in.
Let me go back in there.
Yeah.
Make him go in there.
Why he can't go in there too? Deal with him. Right.
God said, get back in that prayer closet.
Yes.
We have to
get on your knees.
be willing to give that
Yes.
grace and forgiveness, which is something that we have to do over and over and over.
Every
yes.
day.
Anytime you think about it, forgive again.
Yes.
But we have to be willing to admit it, be accountable. It's there. Take it to God and get to the root of it. Like, where did this come from?
Yeah.
Why am I popping off in these scenarios? Why I'm popping off in these scenarios? Because I grew up in a household here, and in this household,
This is how
I was told this is how it works, and so now I'm frustrated because it's not working that way. You're not acting like I thought you should act.
And it's like, this is not the program.
This is not it.
Let's pause right there because we also need to recognize that we are individuals.
Yes.
We are all unique. We all have a background.
Yes.
We all have a way that either we were told or we were shown
Yes.
how it was going to be and or how it should be. And we either made the decision to say, I want it to be like this, or I don't want it to be
Or
nothing
I don't
like
want
that.
it. Right? The polar opposite, right?
Yes.
That's right.
But what I've learned in my marriage is if you don't want that, if you don't take the time to have some honest conversations with yourself or discover things about yourself, you unknowingly walk right into that same
same
That's right.
cycle.
exact same thing.
It's a cycle.
Because that's what's
Cycle.
in you
It's a cycle.
that you didn't know was in you.
That's right.
And
That's
so
right.
then you end up showing up in a way that you weren't trying to show up.
Yes.
But that's what you know.
That's right.
Because that's what's in you.
That's right.
And so then now you're in conflict with this other person who's showing up probably a way they don't realize they're showing up. And now you got a mess on your hands and you don't even know what to do because neither one of y'all
How did I get
took
here?
some time to even and I'm not against people getting married young. Because whether you're young or old, that doesn't dictate maturity. The age, the number doesn't dictate maturity.
Absolutely.
You have to take some time and evaluate, who am I? Who do I want to become?
Yes.
And then how do I want to get there?
And it takes both people to do that.
It
too.
does.
Because one
It
person
does.
can do it, but it takes two people.
And that goes
To
back
do that.
to that purpose,
Yes,
right?
yes.
Because I can follow these ways and these instructions of my divine instruction all day long.
Absolutely.
But if that which the other individual is doing doesn't fit into my purpose, there's gonna be that sandpaper. There's gonna be that clashing
Yes.
of a thing. So
But that's something that you don't learn growing up.
No,
you don't.
I didn't know
learn
that in my 20s.
to find somebody that you're going to have purpose with. You're going to be aligned with.
I
That
like
you can grow with.
I like you. You fine. Let's
You
make
fine.
these
Let's
babies.
make these
Right.
babies and let's go on.
Let's do this thing.
You don't talk about, but that also goes back to you knowing yourself. Because if you don't know your purpose, if you don't know how you're aligned, then you can't possibly know when that person presents themselves.
That's
if
true.
you guys are going to align together.
That goes back to identity.
Absolutely.
Knowing your identity in Christ. Before you bring somebody else into your mess.
Before.
That's right.
Right? Let's just be honest.
And we're not gonna have it all together. That's not what we're saying.
no,
You're
that's
never
not what
gonna
I'm
have it
saying.
all together. You're
No.
never going to be perfect and ready for this
not.
thing.
No.
But you can be a little further along in the journey.
Absolutely.
That's what we're saying.
Yep.
And I believe when if that's your mindset is purpose, I'm going to get the tools I need. I'm going to be intentional about these tools.
Yes.
We can get over anything.
Yeah.
If that is our mindset. It's when yes.
Yeah.
I agree.
Yep.
We can get over anything. And so that's the thing. That's the thing with the unity. That's the thing with becoming flesh and becoming one. A lot of us don't become one in marriage. We're married, but we don't become one.
Yeah.
And so now you pulling. It takes two. A relationship is two, and there's fault and there's accountability on every side.
Absolutely.
Every side. Every side.
That's right. And there's programs running in the background of both of us individually that we're dealing with. I think the word refers to it. You got demons running. I don't ascribe to that. I call them programs. You have programs. You came from a household where Mama went and bought hot dogs, and she bought it was 5 of us in the house, and there were 5 packs of hot dogs. And when the first pack of hot dogs was out, then you went to the next pack, and on, and everyone had hot dogs until there were no hot dogs in the house.
Okay.
But if he grew up in a house of 5 people, and Mama bought a pack of hot dogs for every person, and when Daddy finished his pack, he couldn't eat Mama's.
Okay.
It was like, this is mine. It's got my name on it.
Yeah.
Then you're dealing with that program
That is
that's
true.
running in the background.
Yes.
If you were I was raised by my grandmother. We were
Okay.
talking about counsel.
Yeah.
My grandmother had 2 husbands, and it was till death do us part for both of the husbands.
Okay.
So that's a beautiful testimony. But what she said to me was, Adrienne, you don't leave your husband because he's cheating. You leave him because he's not providing. They're going to cheat. Excuse me?
Wow.
And everything
Different generations
in me,
accepted different things. Yeah.
It was
true.
my righteous indignation. It's like,
no.
the devil is a liar. I want me on husband to me. I will not share him with no woman. I love it. So, but this program is running in the background. So when you go in your first marriage, she said they're going to cheat. She said they're going to cheat. So just get the check. Just get the check. Just get the. So that's running in the background. Like, okay, you go ahead. And it's a conditioning.
Can we unpack that a little bit, because I don't want to skim over that, because that's a generational thing.
It is.
Because
it really is.
In our parents' generation and our grandparents' generation, women didn't have a lot of the rights or privileges
They didn't
that
leave
we
either.
have.
They didn't leave.
That we had to, and because
That's why,
one
though.
of the reasons why they didn't leave is because they would have been in financial ruin.
He's the pot and the window.
You see what I'm saying?
And
so
they didn't have the education
Yes,
either, right?
that's true.
It wasn't
So many
long
different
before
things.
women even
Yeah.
got rights. It really
Exact-
hasn't been that long.
I am the first person in my family to be born with all of my, the woman in my family. I have 3 elder sisters, and of course a mother. I am the first one to be born with all of my rights.
Wow.
All of the rights.
It really wasn't that long ago.
It wasn't.
So
It
we're
wasn't.
talking
It's like
about
the 70s.
generational
Yeah.
conditioning.
Exactly.
I came from a place that you don't leave. Regardless.
Exactly.
Stay with your family. Take everything. Okay. Oh, he out there cheating. He got 20 million people. He abusing you, verbally
Mentally, don't even matter.
But you don't leave.
Right.
Yeah.
Don't
Right.
leave your family.
That's right.
He'll be back.
That's right.
Yep.
And
Like-
just make sure on the 15th and the 30th he drops the check off. And so that makes a condition.
Conditions.
Like,
Yeah.
okay,
Yeah.
well, bring the check. Oh, he done stopped bringing the check. Well, it's time for this to end. It's coming to a close because the check didn't come. You had 16 booze, but you didn't bring the check. The direct deposit didn't clear.
That's a lot of ways to say it.
Baby, listen.
I'm like, which one of the 16 got me checked?
Got me checked.
On the next episode of Pressed into Purpose, choosing to heal. What does that look like?
It starts and ends with being 100% honest about how you feel.
Okay.
It is a day to day, sometimes hour to hour. And because it is a death, it steps through the stages of grief. Mm-hmm. You are going to be angry. You are going to be in denial. You are going to accept eventually. There were days when I literally had to go to God. And this is where I coined the phrase, God can be trusted with our humanity. And so I went to God and said, God, I don't like him. He's a liar, and I want something to happen to him. I want him to fall and bust his head wide open to the white meat show. But I didn't take that to another person. I took that to God.
Right.
I took it to God.
Because he know what you're thinking anyway.
He knew it. But I got in a season where whatever it was that I was feeling, I took those raw feelings to God.
Yeah.
And God, as I took them to him, God took them and he began to dismantle them.
All right.
And heal them and apply the balm that only God can give you. And to give you the beauty for those ashes, because I was angry. I was resentful. I was like, I did everything the way you said to do it. And this is my portion.
See you next time.